Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063, the game presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, your bank for small business. Jared still on vacation. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason filling in once again today. David Reed is here as well. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, we are back. You starting to get into a habit of this afternoon just in time to head back to your normal time slot tomorrow?
I don't want to get used to this. This time is for Jared and Jared only.
Yes.
I told you that I got caught in some traffic near my house because I just lost track of the school getting out, because usually when I'm coming home, traffic is a breeze. School is just getting out, so it's not heavy or anything. It's light, so I can come in. I'm home by like 15 minutes,
right?
Unless I got something to do. Today I left the house and I got caught in that traffic on Hillsborough. Right, Hillsborough High School's at. Man, it's tough. It is tough. So I spent a little traffic. Then I got on 40 and it was backed up, so I had to get off and then hop down my usual, which I should have took anyway. Thompson Lane. I should have took Thompson Lane anyway.
Nashville's, it's tough to navigate because depending on the time of day, there are 8 different routes that become the fastest based on the traffic.
That's why you got to know the back streets.
The good news for you is this is your last day in the afternoons.
Yes. Jared, you can have it back.
Yes, D-Mace will be back with Willie tomorrow from noon to 3. So not exactly your usual time slot,
but I've enjoyed it the last day, believe me.
Yes, it's been fun. We've got a fun show planned today. We're going to talk a good amount of Titans in this first hour, Titans defense specifically. We'll talk some schedule as the NFL schedule is released tomorrow in full. We've seen some more games come out throughout yesterday and today. And also a look at the draft lottery after the Mavericks won the NBA draft lottery, the number 1 pick yesterday, and likely the rights to pick Cooper Flagg. Also, Trevor Maddich going to join us at 4:30 for his weekly visit on the program. But we do have some breaking Titans news to get to start off the show. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN tweeting just about 10 minutes ago, the Titans are signing free agent cornerback Amani Oruwariye, per source, a 6-year veteran. He played in 7 games with 4 starts for Dallas last year. Former draft pick of the Detroit Lions. He played 4 years there, spent 2023 with Jacksonville, only played 1 game with the Jaguars, and then again last year with the Cowboys. So some more corner depth coming for the Titans. Maybe says a little bit about what the Titans expect in the L'Jarius Sneed situation, adding another veteran in that group.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to need bodies. Obviously, there hasn't been much news on L'Jarius Sneed. They get rid of Cheeto. You got Brownlee coming back, who did a pretty good job. I mean, he still has a lot to learn, but I think he held his own more times than not. So you have a very young, you got McQuarrie in there. You got a very young defensive back core. Now you add in Amani. I'm not going to even try to pronounce the last name.
Oruwariye. That's my best guess.
That's what we got.
Oh wait, Pro Football Reference actually has a pronunciation guide on here. I didn't know. Oruwariye. Yes.
Oruwariye.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Amani. Oruwariye. He's coming in. He played 7 games last year for the Cowboys. And listen, the Cowboys defense wasn't anything to be scared of either, outside of Michael Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. But you bring in some leadership, some veteran leadership, hopefully. A guy that has been on several different teams, so he knows how to pick up on schemes. And hopefully he fits into what you want to do. But this may be one of those situations where you let it play out, and maybe he makes the team, maybe he doesn't. But they're going to need the depth, because outside of L'Jarius Sneed and McQuarrie, they don't have a secondary that's filled with or littered with experience. So adding him is a good thing, because this defense in this secondary, they need it bad.
Oruwariye's best season came in 2021. He started 14 games for the Lions, 6 interceptions, 11 passes defended, 57 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. But since then, he's only played in 22 games over the past 3 seasons. So don't know if this is going to be a top-end add at the cornerback position for the Titans. But again, Jeremy Fowler reporting that Amani Oruwariye has signed with the Titans, adding another body to that cornerback room. A couple other news and notes as we open up the show today. The NFL releasing their international schedule today. Thought there might be a chance that the Titans end up heading overseas again. They've done it twice now. Chargers back in 2018 and the Ravens 2 years ago in 2023.
And they lost both of them, didn't they?
They did. The Chargers one was the
they went for two.
They went for two with like 5 seconds left on the clock and didn't get it. And then the Ravens, that was when Tannehill got hurt and Willis came in. So Titans not going overseas. There's always a chance with the Titans because you do play the Jaguars twice. And it seems like the Jaguars are always going to get 2 games in London. This year they are not. They're only getting 1. The Vikings getting 2 international games. They're going to play in Dublin and then in London in back-to-back weeks. So a little bit of a different look at the international series this year, as we won't see Jacksonville making a 2-week trip over there. It'll be the Vikings.
Jacksonville's not the home team. Jacksonville's schedule, you might as well have called them where were they going? London?
Yeah, the London Jaguars.
London Jaguars, yes.
They've been rumored to possibly make a move there eventually. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but there's been talks about it.
Yeah, I'm sure there has been a lot of talks. They're trying to find the best way to get some more money, but that may not be the best way. But yeah, the schedule's starting to, trickle out here and there. And, I don't know if that may be a good thing that the Titans don't have an overseas game because adjusting to that, it takes a lot, especially, you got a young rookie quarterback. He doesn't need to be in situations like that. Now, when the schedule comes out, we'll see if they have a Thursday night game. But I just think it'd be beneficial that the Titans don't go overseas this season.
We'll dive more into the Titans schedule coming up later in the show, but here were the international games that were announced. The NFL is starting to get widespread with these. I'm counting 5 different countries outside of the U.S. that are getting games this year. Sao Paulo, Brazil is getting a game again, just like last year. We saw Packers-Eagles on that Friday night in week 1. This year, it hasn't been officially announced that it's the Chiefs, but it looks like it's going to be Chiefs-Chargers on that Friday night. Week 4 in Dublin, Ireland, mentioned Vikings out there playing the Steelers. They'll play the Browns in London that next week. Broncos, Jets, week 6 in London. Rams, Jaguars, week 7 in London. And then Falcons and Colts playing in Berlin. And then in Madrid, Spain, the Commanders and Dolphins, a game in Spain. I believe that's the only Ireland too. Ireland and Spain, the 2 new countries being added. So a couple additions, and the NFL I think is only going to expand this. I don't think it's too far away from us seeing games in Japan or Australia, and it's going to be tough.
I mean, everywhere that you can, safely get a game. They talked about Brazil and some of the, things that possibly they were telling, players, to stay within the confines of, where security was and everything. Listen, I've never been to Brazil, always wanted to go and still do. But I think they were concerned about the safety issue, security issue, but nothing happened. So, you just want to put these young men, these men and women, all of them, the organizations that are going, in a situation where they're safe. So, I would love to see a game everywhere. I would love to see a game in Africa,
the game,
a game in wherever you can put a game and people can get there and people gonna watch it. Play it.
Right. And
play it.
Roger Goodell has said he wants a Europe division of the NFL at some point. I don't know if that's feasible.
NFL Europe was one, okay?
But I don't think it's actually going to happen. But they have talked about it.
Your NFL Europe, yeah, you remember.
What years was that?
Oh wow,
I don't remember that.
NFL Europe, I think. When was it?
I mean, I've heard of it.
That had to. When did it start? Early 2000s, somewhere.
No, I think it was probably mid-90s.
Was it mid-90s when it started? Yeah, you're right. Because
1989 was when it was founded.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. That's older than I thought.
They went back. I didn't really start recognizing it until it had to be what, late 90s.
Yeah, it was
early
late 90s
2000s.
when I first started watching.
Yeah, the first season, 1991, it ceased in 2007, is what I'm gathering.
Okay.
So I was born in 99. So
yes, you do not.
I was a few years too late for that one.
It was a great year if you were a Titans fan.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
you just made me feel really good.
I was 2 months old when they went to the Super Bowl.
Appreciate that.
The Virginia Tech went to the national championship.
Oh, man.
The Titans went to the Super Bowl within 2 months of me being born, and neither of them have happened again. So,
and I had a family. Reed, did you have a family?
No, not yet. I was
Reed,
I was trying to, but you know.
So I had a family. You weren't even born yet. So there you go. Oh man.
A texter, Matthew in Nashville on our text line, breaking a little bit of news for us here, and we're not going to get too deep into this, but big baseball news just happening. Robert Manfred, the MLB commissioner, just removed Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased players from the league's permanently ineligible list on Tuesday, clearing the path for Pete Rose to enter the MLB's Hall of Fame.
That is just, okay. I'm glad that they did it. I really am. But that's a crock of you know what.
Yep.
Like what? God, it's not even me, and I'm upset. Just the whole is like
right.
The optics of it's like, so it took a man to die, basically, for you to let him in the Hall of Fame, like to make him eligible. Let's say he's gonna get in.
Right, he'll probably get in next year.
Eligible. So I wonder if all those people that voted, are y'all now gonna vote him in? It's just like, wow.
I know it's terrible because with the way that gambling has become so prevalent, and most of these MLB teams are playing on the FanDuel Sportsbook network. Like it is literally the brand of baseball has turned into betting. They're showing home run odds on every single at bat. And Pete Rose, what he did was probably not great. And I understand maybe for 15, 20 years, you ban him, but he should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago.
Yeah, everybody knows that he should have been in. I mean, I get it. But it's just the optics of it.
Right.
Like, people have been screaming for years that they should let Pete Rose in, like years, like vote him in. He deserves it. We understand what happened, but man, hasn't he atoned for all of that?
Yeah.
You know, and y'all using him. The MLB was using him. Like seriously was using like the guy, but y'all didn't want to let him in the Hall of Fame. But now you make it, you open up a pathway for him to get in.
And he can't enjoy it.
And he
doesn't get that moment.
Like, wow, how can it's again? I'm happy that they open up a pathway. I am happy about that. But man, how it's just like I just don't like it. I can't even figure out a word for it. I just don't like it.
Rob Manfred says that the MLB's punishment of banned individuals ends upon their deaths. That seems horrible. Like,
oh my goodness. Like he has the audacity even to say that.
Right. It's like once these guys can't actually recognize that they're in the Hall of Fame, that's when we can put them in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
It makes no sense. Rob Manfred,
makes no sense, man.
He has a history of making some tone deaf decisions since he's become the commissioner, and it continues to show. But it is good that Pete Rose likely will eventually get into the Hall of Fame. We'll see
how long it takes.
We'll see if it takes Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa and all those guys Mark McGwire to die before they get into the Hall of Fame.
That's the way it seems.
Roger Clemens, that whole steroids group. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to text or call. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are off and running on this Tuesday show. When we come back, we're going to spend most of the first hour looking at the Titans defense. We spent a lot of yesterday's show on the offense. The defense hasn't been talked about a lot. And now a new addition in the secondary with Amani Oruwariye. We'll start on the secondary when we come back. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason filling in for Jared Stillman today on Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. That was new Titans safety Xavier Woods talking about what the secondary could look like this year. Couple new pieces and a couple guys coming back as the Titans look to make a big stride on the defensive end after what was a lackluster year last year in terms of points allowed and what they did in the red zone. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason in for Jared Stillman today. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. D-Mace, looking at this defense, you can see how if everything went right, that this could be a solid unit next year. There are guys who have talent at all three levels, but I think there's too many question marks to rely on a lot of these guys. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed is obviously the big one, and we can start with the secondary. The safeties, I think you like the top three if they can stay healthy, which Woods has shown that he can. Hooker has been iffy, and then Winston coming off the ACL injury. Cornerbacks, I think a lot of it hinges on L'Jarius Sneed's health, his availability with his ongoing legal troubles. Amani Oruwariye was just signed a couple of minutes ago, according to Jeremy Fowler. So do we think that this secondary can take a stride when probably the most highly touted player in that group, his availability for at least the first couple games of the season is in question?
Yeah, it is. And this is where I think this position or this group can help the quarterback immediately from this standpoint. The Tennessee Titans were the second, and this is crazy. It's weird. At the end of the year, the Titans ranked number 2 or second in the NFL in total defense, but they were giving up 27.1 points per game.
Yeah.
And you ask how to have, well, if you saw the games, you know why that happened. But it wasn't just that, because I'm not going to put a lot of that on the defense, even though, hey, you get a short field, man, you got to come up big. This is where you need to step up and play tall. Not only that, which I don't fault them too much for that, because a long season, you get put in situations that are not advantageous to you, and you have injuries and things happen. People score on you. But they were giving up 133 yards per rushing per game, 134.
Wow.
With a defensive line that has Sweat and Simmons on it, and you gave up 133, 134 yards per game. That's not going to help your quarterback. It's not going to help your quarterback at all. You look at the secondary. These guys last season, and then bringing in Xavier Woods helps. He had 3 interceptions last year, I believe, 2 or 3. 3. He had 3 interceptions last year. This team hasn't been able to take the football away from a interception standpoint. We talked about this last year a lot. This team has amounted for 11 interceptions last year. Over the last, I think, 2 years, they've amounted, I think, it's under 20, interceptions. It's somewhere around there.
Last year, 2 years ago, they only intercepted 6 passes. So 17 over the last 2 years.
Yes, 17 over the last 2 years. You know how many interceptions they were averaging from 19 to 21? They were averaging about 15, 16 interceptions per season for a 3 or 4 year period. And then that 4th year, they dipped down, but they still had 14 interceptions. So you're telling me they were averaging 16 interceptions over a course of 3 years, and you ain't even get that many. You barely got that many in 2 seasons. You don't help your offense out when you're not taking the ball away. So they got to find a way. This is going to be critical for them, I think, this secondary, because they do a good job at sort of minimizing things. But sudden change, they're not good. They haven't been good. And they got to find a way to beef up this, not only the secondary, not only the defensive line, but they got to find a way to start getting more interceptions on the outside. I understand that Sneed and Awuzie didn't play a lot last year. Sneed, he missed.
He only played 4 games.
He played 4 games. Awuzie ended up coming back toward the end of the season, and he ended up getting 1 interception. But they need to find a way to get Sneed on the field, because I think that once Sneed get on the field, it changes the dynamics if he's healthy. It changes the dynamics. And what helps them is a defensive line that can get to the quarterback. They didn't have many sacks last year either. And I'm sure the pressures were not there as they have been in previous years. They need to up both of them, because when you up both of them, then it helps out the guys on the outside. I love Brownlee. Brownlee played tough last year. He was put in some situations that were not advantageous for a rookie, but he stood up tall. He got beat, but he came back and he made plays. You want to see that he continued to grow throughout the season. So when you look at that secondary, if Snead can come back healthy, and Brownlee can develop more within this system, and McQuarrie takes another a step, I think you can have a really good secondary. But all of it hinges on whether Snead is out there. Now, some of these young guys, they may show up like Brownlee did last year. They may show up, but you're depending on a guy you've paid all this money to. He needs to play.
Right. You tried to bring in a lockdown cornerback,
Yes.
which I'd argue the Titans probably haven't had a guy that they feel like they can put on an island with somebody since.
Wow. When?
I mean, does it go back as far as Cortland Finnegan?
It may. You may
Because
be
I like
right.
Jason McCourty was good.
I like Jason McCourty.
but
He was good.
I don't know if he was ever
He wasn't considered a
lockdown cornerback.
Absolutely.
Same thing, like Alteron Werner had the one really good year that got
Uh-huh.
him paid in Tampa, but I still wouldn't put him in like the top 10 cornerbacks in
No.
the league.
No.
And then you had the years where the secondary, like you mentioned, from 18, 19, 20, 21 was really good with Logan Ryan, Malcolm
Yes.
Butler, Adoree Jackson, but none of those guys were elite cornerbacks.
They weren't considered shutdown corners. They played. Their strength was they played together as a team.
Right.
on
Like
defense.
that five in, I guess it was 18, 19, the team that went to the AFC Championship game of Butler, Jackson, Ryan, Byard, Vaccaro.
Yes.
That was the my man catch no balls secondary. That was
And
their
they had a really good secondary.
that was
year.
a really good secondary, even though outside of Byard, there was an all pro
no,
among that
but they
group.
played well together.
Right. But you brought in Snead to be the lockdown cornerback. There were conversations when they made that trade that it was between probably him, Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain of like, all right, who is the top cornerback in the league? And L'Jarius Snead's not in those conversations anymore.
No.
Even the 4 games he played last year, he wasn't
great.
all that good.
Yeah, he wasn't great.
He got bailed out in the Dolphins game twice.
Drop balls, overthrown balls.
Yeah, balls. Tyler Huntley was playing quarterback, and he missed a couple of wide open touchdowns over L'Jarius Snead's head. So I look at this and say, Snead, you're right. It does hinge on L'Jarius Snead because I think McCreary's a good player. I think Hooker's a good player. I really like the Kevin Winston pick if he's going to be a full go this season. And Woods obviously is a consistent guy out there. Brownlee had a good rookie year. But if you're going to be a top 10 secondary in the league, you need to have that guy who's the leader. You're paying this guy all this money to be your number one cornerback. And right now, whether it's injury, whether it's a suspension, there's no guarantee that he's on the field for week 1.
No, there's not. I hope he is. This team's going to need him. But here is the interesting part about it. They were a good pass defense. They only gave up 177 yards per game. They didn't get many interceptions. They were not an opportunistic type of secondary. They need to become, and I think Denard Wilson understands this. Just watch the places that he's, been the more recent places that he was in Baltimore. Baltimore was an opportunistic defense. They got turnovers. They had a good defensive line too, but they got turnovers. When they got their hands on balls, they caught them. Brownlee got his hand on a few balls and he didn't catch them. You got to make those count because they may not come back around. Again, I think this was a good secondary minus L'Jarius Snead. But I think L'Jarius Snead, when he comes and if he plays to the level he did in Kansas City, it takes that secondary from being, because they were the number 2 ranked secondary in the National Football League. And I get it. You look at the scores and everything. It just don't equate.
When Will Levis is giving up a lot of short fields.
Absolutely. So it's just like it doesn't balance out when you look at the record, the points, and then them as a pass defensive unit. But if they can get Snead to come in, be healthy, and play the way he's capable of playing, you got a team that only gave up 177 yards passing per game. I believe they get better with them if he's there for all 17 games.
And a lot is going to be sorted out over the next few months when it comes to the legal situation, the lawsuit with L'Jarius Sneed, and whether Roger Goodell elects to make any changes there and put him on the exempt list, which I know Jared's talked about it a lot, but I think if L'Jarius Sneed is on the field, I still think he can be a top-line cornerback if he's healthy and we don't have to worry about any suspension. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Be sure to tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Nashville Sound start a series with Memphis. Pregame begins at 6:30. The first pitch is at 6:45. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Looking at the Titans defense, one of the most intriguing positions on the roster is inside linebacker. Cody Barton brought in free agency, but what else is there? And can the Titans make an improvement at that spot in 2025? We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason filling in for Jared Stillman today. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. This week's Nashville's Best Deal is Bavarian Beer House, conveniently located at Opry Mills Mall. Enjoy beer, food, music, and fun at Nashville's only authentic German beer hall, where it's Oktoberfest every day. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals now to get a $50 gift card for only $25 to Bavarian Beer House while supplies last. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason filling in for Jared Stillman today. We're looking at the Titans defense. We went through the secondary, and I think the secondary, you really can't evaluate what it's going to be in 2025 until we get a resolution to the L'Jarius Sneed situation. Because, again, that is your number one cornerback. If he's available, I think that could be a pretty good unit. If he's not, I think there's a lot of question marks. Probably the biggest question mark on this defense is at inside linebacker. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this a little bit between segments yesterday, D-Mace, that it's going to be one of the better competitions in training camp. Wide receiver, I think, is going to be the one that gets a lot of headlines. But inside linebacker, you got Cody Barton, who you signed to a deal this year, and I think he is probably your number one. He's your green dot guy.
Yes.
But who are you going to put next to him? You got a lot of options of young guys who really haven't played a whole lot, but we've seen flashes from all of them. Otis Reese and Chance Campbell were probably two of the preseason darlings last year before Campbell got hurt. Those guys were flashing all over the place, whether it's on special teams or on defense. Cedric Gray, 4th-round pick out of North Carolina last year. A lot of people liked him coming into the season. Obviously, he missed a lot of time with injury. James Williams, transitioning from safety to linebacker last year. Again, made some plays. He had some big hits, but still kind of adjusting to the position. And then is it David Jabenda from Texas? The undrafted free agent has been making some headlines as well. So it is an interesting position, D-Mace, because you do have a veteran, a free agent that you signed to a relatively expensive deal that's in there. And then you just have chaos behind it with these young linebackers who are going to be battling for snaps once we get to July and August.
Well, Cody Barton, he's had, 100 tackles the last 3 years, 100-plus tackles the last 3 years.
Yep.
I think he's averaged over 50 solo tackles in the last 3 years to go with that. So he's not going to give you much in regards to sacks or interceptions. He's just a solid player. He's a guy that I think you need to have on every team needs to have that solid player
right
at the linebacker position. He's a good tackler. Is he overly athletic? Probably not, but he's a solid guy. He's going to be a green dot guy. He's going to be a guy that will play. And that's been the theme of the Titans, in this offseason, getting guys that are going to be available to play, because over the last 3 years, they have had more guys unavailable than they had available, it seems, with all the injuries. So you look at Barton and you figure, okay, he has a spot. Cedric Gray came in last season. He was hurt last year as his rookie season. They had high hopes for him before the injury. He came back. He played okay. He still has a lot to learn. Otis Reese got a chance to play a lot last season. So you're looking at this inside linebacker, and like you said, it's wide open for competition. Outside of Barton, everybody else is fighting for playing time on this team, and which it's good to have a position solidified as far as your starters. But if you don't, you want to make sure you create competition so that position gets better, because they got nothing, and I mean completely nothing, from the inside backer position last season, outside of a few interceptions here and there. They didn't really get as much as they should have gotten out of that position.
We mentioned in the last segment how the Titans are just searching for playmakers on the defensive end. I think you can go back to the 2019 AFC Championship game. The reason the Titans did not go to the Super Bowl is because they did not have anybody who stepped up and made a play against Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the run down the sideline or you're up 17-7, if the defense makes one play and forces a turnover, gets a short field, and you go up 3 scores, you might be playing in Miami in 2 weeks against the 49ers. But guess what? No one stepped up. The Chiefs pull away and win that game. And they've been searching for it ever since, whether it's bringing in Jadeveon Clowney that next offseason and trying to see if he could be the guy coming off the edge. L'Jarius Sneed, most recently, trading a 3rd-round pick and giving him a big contract. Somebody's got to be a playmaker. And when I look at this inside linebacker group, I like James Williams.
Mhm.
I think he's got the highest ceiling out of these guys. Like Gray, we haven't seen a ton out of. I do like Otis Reese and Chance Campbell. I think they're more special teams depth guys.
Mhm.
Like they can be the fourth inside linebacker on your roster. They're probably not going to start for you. I think James Williams, there are going to be some problems, and I think he's probably going to be out of position sometimes, maybe a little bit of Kenneth Murray to his game. But I think if he just goes and see ball, hit ball, and goes and makes a play, James Williams could end up forcing a couple of turnovers for this team. So he's the guy that I look at, and I really hope that he makes the 53 coming out of camp.
Well, he has an opportunity to. He has the athleticism. They took a chance on him, a converted safety, and made him into a linebacker. Ended up drafting him in the 7th round, and he showed flashes. He showed potential, and that's why they chose to keep him on the roster. And he played a little bit last year, got his feet wet. He needs to make another step. He needs to take another step. He needs to develop more to be an every down linebacker. They need his versatility. They can use his versatility, but we can't use it if you don't know what to do. So he needs to figure out this defense, because this is a from what I've learned in watching, Denard Wilson places he been or the place he was in Baltimore. They are an attacking defense. They want to dictate how you play. They don't want you to dictate how they play. So a guy like James Williams with his athleticism, he can fit right into that mode of being a versatile player. But you got to you have to be consistent. You got to know the defense. You got to know what's going on. So I'm with you. He is one of those guys that can be like a game changer if he figures it out. Now, again, I think Cedric Gray can be a good player in this defense.
Yep.
Played 7 games last year. He needs to put on a little bit more weight. But that first to second year, there's a jump. And I talked about this yesterday, because about the time you get to year 3, they know if you got it or not. Year 3, they should. If you've been playing, they know.
There's
if you
usually
are
not a lot of
not.
surprises after year
exactly.
3.
So that year, from year 1 to 2, the jump is there's a huge mental jump, because now you should know what's going on as far as the scheme you're trying to run, unless they switch defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, and Titans haven't done that. But there's a jump mentally, and then there should be a jump physically. Why? You say physically. Why? I say that because we talked about this. They trained for specific things. They didn't train for a season. This season, off season, he got a chance to train for the season. He knows what to expect. So he should come in here better than he was last year. And if that is indeed the case, that should help this defense. He and Cedric Gray, if both of those guys can take another step, it helps the longevity of this defense.
Inside linebacker feels a lot like tight end to me, where it's one of those, it's not a premium position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Titans have tried to avoid using premium capital, whether it's in the draft or free agency, at inside linebacker or tight end. So you've got all these young guys, just like at tight end. You have Chig, you have Wiley, you have Helm over there. Here you've got Gray, Williams, Reese, Campbell. It's like somebody win the job.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not good enough, I guess we got to go find somebody maybe on day 2 of the draft instead of day 3. But I do like this group, and I'm hoping that somebody emerges and can end up being an impact player for this Titans team coming up in 2025. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman and Derek Mason in for Jared Stillman today. Lots coming up on the show. Again, Trevor Maddich going to join us at 4:30. We'll talk Titans schedule as the NFL schedule comes out in full later this week, tomorrow night at 7. So we'll get into that a little bit more. We'll wrap up our conversation on the Titans defense coming up next. Finish off with the edge rushers, as there are more question marks, as there are at pretty much every level of this Titans defense. We'll look at the pass rushers coming up next here on Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Test. 1 2 1 2. Don't know why that's. Yeah.
Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063, The Game. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason with you on this Tuesday afternoon, filling in for Jared, who is on vacation. He will be back on Friday. Schedule will change up a little bit the next couple of days. D-Mace goes back with Willie from noon to 3 tomorrow. And the 3 to 6, we talked about it yesterday. David Reed, the reunion with Paul Kaharski coming up tomorrow afternoon. PK and Rex Road. From 3 to 6 tomorrow.
Wait, David. I know you can't wait.
I think I feel something coming on. Like, is COVID going around again?
Oh man!
So they'll be on tomorrow.
I love him. I love him. I don't know why I love him, but I love him.
I think a lot of people have that same sentiment. Like, man, I don't know why I love Paul, but I love him. He's cool.
We all have those people in our lives,
and we know it'll be entertaining getting Joe Rexroad and Paul Kaharski in the same room. So that's tomorrow, 3 to 6. And then again, Jared will be back on Friday. Wrapping up our conversation on the Titans defense heading into 2025, the edge rush position. On the outside linebackers, I don't really know what to think of this group because there's some potential. They brought in Draymond Jones from Seattle, and I think he's probably your top edge rusher, a guy who's probably going to be out there for all 3 downs. But then behind that, what can Arden Key do? He had a couple of games last year where it looked like he could be an impact guy, but then the consistency is just not there. And then Femi Oladejo, your second-round pick, I don't know if he's expected to be a premium player in year 1. He's more of a guy who year 2, year 3 could end up blossoming into a top-level pass rusher. So we talked about the secondary and how they need to make plays, and they've got to get more interceptions, only 17 in the last 2 years. But a lot of that does start with getting after the quarterback, making him flustered and making some mistakes. Do the Titans have enough on the edge to make some plays in 2025?
I'm not sure. Because as much as I like Arden Key he's a solid player. You know what, he's going to bring some energy. But he's too hot and cold for me.
Right.
He'll show up for a couple weeks and then all of a sudden he go ghost. Like,
yeah, he'll have 2 weeks where he has 4.5 sacks combined and then go a month without a sack.
Like, what happened to him? Like, is he on the field? Is he hurt? What's going on? But no, he's just been wildly inconsistent, especially last season. So you look at that, then with the loss of Harold Landry. So you took the 9 sacks away that you had from Harold Landry. They had 2 guys in the top 50, only 2 guys in the top 50. That's a lot of players, right? Top 50 in sacks, like number of sacks. Harold Landry had 9. They had nobody with double digits. Harold Landry had 9, and Arden Key, I think, had 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah.
And I'm looking now, 4 of them came in a 3-week span.
Exactly. Then you didn't hear anything else from Arden Key.
He had 1 against Buffalo, 2 against Detroit. In that game, and the Detroit game was over before it even started. And then he had 1 in the win against New England. Outside of that, he had 2.5 sacks in the other 13 games that he played.
Yeah, he has to give them some more. And I'm not sure that he can do that. Again, I think he's a good player, but he's not giving the Titans something that they sorely need, and that's someone that can get to the quarterback. Again, I talk about Harold Landry. Listen, Harold averaged close to double digits, if not double digit sacks. He was 10 sacks. He had 9 last season, but he was consistent. Harold Landry was consistent. He was out on the field all the time. He got to the quarterback when you needed him to. He applied pressure. He was a solid player, and a consistent player. They wanted more out of the position. That's why they chose to allow him to go.
Right.
I'm not sure if his replacement is going to give you that, at least not this season. They got to find a way to accumulate some sacks and pressures. They got to find a way to stop the run. And a lot of that has to do with setting the edges, Arden Key and now Jones. To start, it started with setting edges. You don't give up 133 yards per game, especially not with Simmons and Sweat in the middle. I just tend to think if you're not giving up the edges, they're not rushing for that many yards.
Yep.
There's something going on with that front 7 that is foreign to this defense, because they use like that front 7. They can rely on those guys, at least that D line with those backers. This last season, they couldn't. They didn't stop the run, and they were not getting sacks or dynamic plays at that position.
I think no matter what Femi Oladejo is for this team, it would not surprise me in the least if the Titans' first-round pick is an edge rusher next year. Based on what I've seen, it's not like I've watched film on the 2026 edge class yet, but I've seen that it looks like the top end of the pass rush class in 2026 looks pretty good. I think Clemson has a couple of guys. Miami might even have an edge rusher. So there are some options out there. I think the Titans are going to have to invest heavily in the pass rush over the next few years, because right now, beyond Femi Oladejo, Arden Key's a free agent after this year. Draymond Jones was just a 1-year deal, I believe.
I think it is, yeah, just a 1-year deal.
So, and then Lorenzo Carter was another guy they brought in on a 1-year deal from Atlanta, but he did not have a single sack last year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's really just Femi Oladejo and Jalen Harrell who you have as young options at that position. You're probably going to have to use a first-round pick on a pass rusher. If not this upcoming year, then 2027, in one of the next couple of years, to get some premier pass rush on that side. Because if you're not affecting the quarterback, your defense is not going to have a lot of success. And overall, I think looking through, we've looked through the entire Titans defense, there's not really a position that you feel good about. I think Interior defensive line is probably the only one that you look at and you say, okay, they're good, solid pieces there with Simmons and Sweat and Joseph Day and Coburn. Safety looks solid if they can stay healthy. But outside of that, I don't have a whole lot of faith that this Titans defense is going to go from 6 interceptions to 11 interceptions to turning the ball over consistently. I think it's going to be another tough year in terms of trying to make some game-changing plays and flip the ball over to the offense.
See, interceptions, it's hard. You can try to scheme up an interception, but it's hard to do. Interceptions, a lot of times they happen. It's just being in the right place at the right time. It's not that you really like schemed for that.
Tips and overthrows.
It was just tips, overthrows. You may get it, but a lot of it does come with your studying what they're doing from an offensive standpoint, and you're sort of, okay, down and distance, what did I like to do?
Tendencies, all that, yeah.
But still, a lot of that is like, man, it's just like a change. Like when you get an opportunity, you got to make it.
Right.
They got to find a way to start getting. And Denard Wilson's talked about this last year. They got to find a way to start getting turnovers, because what I have learned in this game, playing it for 15 years at the pro level, is that interceptions come in bunches, like fumbles come in bunches. Look at the year that the New Orleans Saints, I think it was the year the New Orleans Saints won the Super Bowl. I think it was that year. They led the league in takeaways, I believe. It seemed like every week they had 1, 2, 3 interceptions, returns. It's just like, but you didn't look at them as their front seven as some, once in a lifetime type of front seven. For whatever reason, they were able to generate interceptions. They were able to generate turnovers. And a lot of that could have been, defensive coordinators. Williams, I believe he was Greg Williams. He is an attacking type of guy. His defense is attack. Believe me, I've seen it and I played against it. And Denard Wilson, I think that's his philosophy too. Attack, attack, attack. So when you attack, when you get an opportunity to get interceptions or fumbles, you take them, because once it starts, that floodgates open very fast. Teams have made it to the Super Bowl because of what they've been able to do on the defensive side of the ball as far as getting takeovers. I mean, getting takeaways.
39 turnovers for that Saints defense that year. They won the Super Bowl. 26 picks, 13 fumbles, and of course, everybody remembers Tracy Porter with 2 huge interceptions, one in the NFC Championship game on Brett Favre, and then Peyton Manning, the pick 6 in the Super Bowl. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Stillman & Company. Coming up at 4:30, Trevor Maddich will join us for his weekly visit. But coming up next, we'll have a fun conversation on draft lotteries after last night, where the Dallas Mavericks jump up 10 spots to the number 1 pick and likely the rights to pick Cooper Flagg. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason filling in for Jared Stillman today here on Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. This is Derek Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution or some type of goal to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. But I got some news for you. Because at Cool Springs MD, some good news too, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I heard the voice. I was like, is that me
We
talking?
went to the past, or did we go to the future?
Am I was wondering if I was doing it out loud, but
Did we go to the future?
or maybe that's the
Or
next
the
hour.
past? What was it?
Was that the 5 o'clock hour
I
playing
don't
earlier?
know what it was.
Jake Lyman, Derek Mason with you here on Stillman and Company. Jared on vacation. We are brought to you by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, your bank for small business. Broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Let's talk some draft lottery here. We had the NHL draft lottery a little over a week ago, and I know Preds fans very disappointed that the Predators fell from the expected 3rd pick down to the 5th pick, and the Islanders got the 1st pick. The Islanders moved up, I believe, 9 spots to take the 1st pick and had about a 2%, 3% chance of getting that 1st pick. And then last night, lot of blowback for the NBA after the Dallas Mavericks moved up from the 11th pick to the 1st pick. They had a 1.8% chance to get the number 1 overall pick, and they got it. Chance to pick Cooper Flagg. A lot of conspiracy theorists saying that the NBA forced Dallas to trade Luka Doncic to the Lakers, and they would be rewarded with the number 1 overall pick. I'm not sure I believe that, but the NBA hasn't done a very good job. If they are rigging the draft lottery, they haven't done a very good job of hiding it with some of the results we've had over the years. With, obviously the first one ever, Patrick Ewing goes to the Knicks. LeBron James to the Cavaliers is a
Derrick
big one.
Rose to the Chicago
Right.
Bulls.
It seems like the storyline that fits what the NBA wants happens to happen more than not. But the NBA, you've now got the Mavericks picking first, where they can pretty much replace the superstar that they traded away with another one, Cooper Flagg. Outside of Victor Wembanyama, probably the most highly touted NBA draft prospect in the last at least 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. I don't think anyone has come in outside of Wembanyama. Did I say it right? Victor Wembanyama.
Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Wemby.
Since, what was that, 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago. And there's been some really good players. Like,
some group. I mean,
Paolo Banchero, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, all number 1 overall picks. DeAndre Ayton was the number 1
But I don't
pick.
think they were as coveted as Wemby.
Maybe
or
Zion
Cooper
Williamson.
Flagg. Yeah, Zion Williams. Yeah, you're right.
You could put him in that conversation.
But is that outside the 5 years?
That was 2019. So
right
a little
outside
over
the
5 years. So,
But still, you can throw him in there. He's right there with them.
Cooper Flagg expected to be an immediate impact player for, we expect, the Mavericks.
Yes.
They could trade it.
No, they ain't doing that.
I don't think they're going to trade it.
So why would they trade it if this conspiracy theory is out here?
Right.
Like people saying, well, no, the NBA is not going to, quote, give them a pick
and then
have them trade it away. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
And if Cooper Flagg is as good as people think he's going to be, I think it would be stupid to trade away. I know that the proposed trades that are being put out there are for Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yes.
And it's Giannis obviously he's a Hall of Fame player. He won a championship.
First rounders for Giannis.
But do I want to pay Giannis $60 million a year as he starts to decline? He's still in his prime, I would say, right now. But how many more years of that do you have for the Greek Freak? Whereas Cooper Flagg is going to be on his rookie deal for a couple years, and he'll be ascending as he joins your team. So I don't really see that. What I could see is the Spurs, who miraculously moved up to the number 2 pick, maybe they package that to try and bring Giannis to San Antonio and pair him with Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. We'll see.
Draft lotteries, it's since they started, there has been the assumption that they are rigged. And the NHL did theirs live on TV. The NBA has put out the video of the ping pong balls being pulled. So they do have a video of it. Do we know if that was the first time that they pulled the ping pong balls? No, we don't, because it wasn't live. They could have just recorded over and over until they got the result that they wanted. But draft lotteries, again, have always had questions.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's whether it's the NHL lottery this season. And we felt it this off season a couple weeks ago where, the Predators were, had their opportunity. They had a chance, a mathematical chance, and they end up falling to the fifth spot. You look at other sports where, they implore, sort of this type of thing. It's just lotteries for me, they're fun because I go back to, because it all started for me when Patrick Ewing got drafted. Because it was such a big hoopla. Now, I know there were great players drafted before Patrick Ewing. I get that. Magic, Bird, all those guys.
Right.
But I mean, Patrick Ewing, up until that point, man, everybody was clamoring for Patrick Ewing. Back, I think it was 84 when he came out, 85, somewhere around there. You were clamoring, like you wanted the number one pick for Pat. And, people, oh, they rigged it. They gave it to the Knicks. He's going to New York. He's a Georgetown guy. He goes right up the street to play in New York. Oh, the NBA wanted New York to have a marquee franchise player. Listen, it's good for basketball when the Knicks have a marquee player. It's good for the NBA when the Lakers have a marquee player. It's good when Chicago or Boston have a marquee player.
Or when there was a storyline like LeBron playing for his hometown team, they didn't want him going to Memphis. Like,
yeah, they didn't want to see that happen. They didn't want to see LeBron sort of. I'm not going to say he would have wilted away because I think the same thing he did for Cleveland, he would have done for the Memphis Grizzlies and won them a championship eventually. I think that would have happened with LeBron on there. But I go back to those days. So the draft, some years, guys get drafted, first pick in the draft and nobody pays attention. Some years it's good to have the lottery and you're wishing and hoping you get that number one spot. But then other years you don't. It's like I don't really want it because there's nobody out here that that appeals to my team.
Right.
Sort of like what the Titans went through this season. Sort of kind. It was like nobody really outside of the Giants, and I think there were one other team. Nobody wanted to come up to that spot because they looked at this year's crop of quarterbacks as outside of Cam Ward, there's really nobody else that we want to draft that high. So they didn't even entertain it too much. But you look at the NBA, man, and I enjoy the way they do it. I don't want it in the sport that I played, but I enjoyed the way they do it. Why? Because they've done it for the longest. It's tailor made for their league.
The NBA, I believe the NBA started it. The NHL does it now too.
Yes, the NHL does it.
The MLB just added it in the last couple of years. Leaving the NFL as the only major American sport without a draft lottery. I'm not saying I want it, but I do want to pose the question. And we'd love to hear from you. 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You can text or call. Would you be in favor of the NFL instituting a draft lottery to de-incentivize tanking? And does the NFL need to do that? We'll talk about it coming up next. Could the NFL put a draft lottery in? I saw some people on X, on Twitter yesterday after the NBA draft lottery saying the NFL should do this. Do you agree? 615-737-1025. Trevor Maddich going to join us at the bottom of the hour for his weekly segment. Excited for that. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason. We're in for Jared Stillman today here on Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The second pick will be made by the San Antonio Spurs, and that means that the number 1 pick in the 2025 NBA draft goes to the Dallas Mavericks.
Last night, the NBA draft lottery gives the number 1 pick to the Dallas Mavericks. They move up what I believe I heard is an NBA record, 10 spots from their projected pick of 11 all the way to 1, and will likely take Cooper Flagg, number 1 overall. So we started the conversation before the break. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason in for Jared Stillman today on Stillman and Company. Should the NFL, the only major American sport left without a draft lottery, should they put one into practice? And we both agree, probably not. We have some people on our text line. Larry for Columbia says he doesn't like the lottery for any sports. I think it's necessary for a sport like basketball. We were talking about it with only 5 people on the court, both guys playing offense. They're all playing offense and defense. You can tank.
Yes.
Like the trust the process 76ers. They were not trying to win basketball games.
No.
So you have to discourage tanking a little bit. In the NFL, though, do you really have to discourage tanking?
I think it's equally as hard to do it. Even when you're trying to say tank, the Houston Texans happened. And they scored a touchdown, and they end up going from the number 1 pick to the number 2 pick.
And it ended up it worked out. They got CJ Stroud.
But listen, as much it would be harder to try to tank in the NFL. I truly believe that. Now, some teams are just bad, or some teams, the Titans were not trying to tank last year. Let's just put it that way. The Titans were not trying to tank last year. They were just a bad team.
Yes.
They had injuries too. That's how the number 1 pick ends up truly happening, where they're just not a good team. It's not like they're trying to tank. I've never seen, if you got Peyton Manning at quarterback, if you ain't got nobody else around you still ain't tanking, because he's going to win games for you. He's going to elevate everybody. It's hard to tank in the NFL, even when you're trying to do that. If you try to implore a tanking philosophy, it was mentioned that, tanking for Tua.
Right. Suck for the duck was the Titans for Mariota.
They were not trying to tank. They just were a bad team. You can't take a good team and tank them and to get the number 1 pick. You just can't. You could take a bad team is going to be a bad team regardless. The NFL, the only way you're going to get the number 1 pick. Why? Because you're bad. Has nothing to do with your tanking or anything. It's that the Titans were a bad team this season. Did they tank? No. I said that already. Did they tank? No. The year before that, the Carolina Panthers, was it Carolina?
The Bears.
Yeah, the Bears.
Well, the Bears got it from the Panthers.
Yeah,
the Panthers.
So the Panthers, they were a bad team. You think they were trying to tank? No, they were just a bad team.
The only way that you can quote unquote tank in the NFL, I think, is if you just put a quarterback that is not good out there. And we saw 2 teams this year sub out their starting quarterback. The Giants put Drew Lock in there, and he beat the Colts and moved them out of the number 1 pick. Then in week 18, the Patriots said, you know what? We got nothing to play for. We're going to rest Drake May. Joe Milton, go on out there. And if they had lost, they would have had the number 1 pick and probably would have gotten a king's ransom to move back for Cam Ward, like the Titans were offered from the Giants. They beat the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills without a lot of their starters.
Yes.
But it's hard to tank in the NFL. And that's why it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to have a draft lottery when it's hard to be bad. Like once every 10 years, I'll use the G word here, you'll get a generationally bad team like the 0-16 Cleveland Browns,
or
like the
0-16
0-16 Lions. You'll get one of those every 5-10 years that is just, that team's getting the number 1 pick by about the middle of the season. But for the most part, all these teams are trying to be competitive, and it's going to come down to a tiebreaker anyway. It's going to be based off your strength of schedule, who gets the number 1 pick. So I don't see a real need for a draft lottery, but I did see some people out there who said it would be a good idea.
I mean, it's worked this long for the NFL, and I can't see in order for it to change, there would have to be some type of financial incentive for the NFL to change it. um, because the NFL, they make a whole sort of the process of this thing. It's a whole process with the
It's
NFL.
a reality show.
Yeah, it's just they build this thing up tremendously. So like we don't want to have to wait until some balls to be dropped in order to figure out who's picking what. No, we know, like, as the season's coming down, we know who's picking first, and then we can set it up based upon that.
Yes. And we were talking about that, how it creates drama in the final week of the season that wouldn't be there if the lottery was in place. Like, no one cared about the Bills backups against the Patriots backups in week 18 this year, but Titans fans did, because if the Patriots won that game, the Titans got the number 1 overall pick. So that adds a little drama. The only thing that maybe incentivized the NFL to do it, the ratings would be insane on an NFL draft lottery. Like, if you made it a whole hour, 2-hour show of them going through the top 5 picks and which teams get them, you would have millions of people tuned in.
That would bring extra money outside of the season, because it's something that would almost have to happen during the NFL playoffs, and nobody wants to be dealing with that during the NFL playoffs. Or you're going to have to do it after the playoffs, and then that is too late because people are, scouts are out and the combine and all this other stuff. So you would have to rework a lot of things,
right,
in order to sort of fit it in. And listen, if you were not a bad team, like if you were not the Tennessee Titans last year or the New England Patriots, because they were bad too, just because you won 5 or 6 games, you shouldn't have an opportunity to get the number 1 pick. You shouldn't.
I agree.
Like
the Mavericks were in the play-in tournament.
Exactly. And they end up getting that's not fair. I'm not gonna say that's not fair. It shouldn't be. You are on the brink, and the only reason you didn't make the playoffs is because you got hurt.
Yeah.
AD was hurt. Kyrie tore up his knee. You had other players. PJ, he was hurt. You had a lot of guys hurt on that team. That's the only reason they sort of fell in this situation that they're in. So you are almost, it's like, I am rewarding this team that's going to end up being good anyway.
Right. This is a team that was in the NBA Finals less than a year ago.
Like I'm going to say it again. Good teams in the NFL very seldom, rarely get the number 1 pick. Good teams, because even if they get injured, they're still going to win enough.
You can win 5, 6 games
because of the team you have.
Yeah.
The whole team isn't going to go down. When your roster's good, you're not going to have the first pick. It's when your roster's bad from top to bottom, as the Titans were, as the Bears were, as Carolina was, because they traded their pick. So Carolina, they were bad from top to bottom.
It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to do a lottery, especially because you're only playing 17 games. Yeah. It's like the margins are so small in the NFL, where if a team that's 8-9 and just misses the playoffs has a chance at the number 1 pick.
Oh man. That's why the NFL has parity, I believe.
Right. The NFL is the only league left that is 100% built for parity.
Yes. They want parity, and they understood this a long time ago. If you keep the fan base hoping, now again, you have a few fan bases, they don't hope, and the Titans, I hope they don't get that way, where the fans are just like, oh, well, it is what it is.
Right.
But every year you have fan bases hoping and wishing, like, this is going to be like, we can make it. Why? Because it never seems like, unless they got a historically bad team, like you said, every football team walks into their new season like, we got a chance.
Right. There is not a single football fan out there right now that is saying there's no chance our team makes the playoffs. Like, there's some teams that probably don't feel good about it, but I think every NFL football fan is out there thinking, oh yeah, now if things go right for us,
if this happens, if this guy
if he takes a really big step, we could get into the playoffs.
And they don't think that way. They don't.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. A couple of texts. Mark from Clarksville says, I don't get why the leagues don't televise the pick draw. It's so shady. I get that. And that's why the NHL did it. Ron with an idea that they should do the lottery before the season and just pick all 32 teams out of a hat. and
before the season,
and just, everybody's got an equal shot.
nah,
I'm not behind that.
I
either.
don't think no one's going to agree to that. Nan one of the 32 teams.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get back to your texts in a little bit. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason filling in for Jared Stillman today. Trevor Maddich will join us next for his weekly visit on the program here on Stillman & Company, 1025, 1063 The Game.
Try to cut this right quick before test 1 2 1 2. Let's see.
Can I see the rundown real quick so I can make the title on this one?
Yeah, let me. Yeah, on that.
Stillman & Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Jake Lyman and Derek Mason filling in for Jared Stillman today. And we are pleased to be joined now on our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Trevor Maddich. And as always, he is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for taking some time today.
Oh, glad to be here with you, Jake and D-Mace. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. I am as well, Trev.
Trevor, I want to start with Cam Ward, rookie minicamp this weekend, the first chance for him to get out there at the practice facility, working with some of his new teammates, and now has kind of been introduced to the veterans. For a young quarterback coming in with a lot of expectation, what will be some of the big challenges for him as he works his way into that building and tries to establish himself?
I think the biggest challenge will be for him to put the brakes on his own expectations. You get a guy like Cam Ward who's accustomed to buying time in the pocket, making big plays, seeing that there's a 6-yard completion there to be had, but waiting a little while longer because maybe he can get a 40-yard completion, those kinds of things in college you can get away with quite often, and he got away with it a lot. That's why he was the first pick of the draft, one of the reasons. In the NFL, playing hero all the time is a recipe for failure for a young quarterback. There are times when you've got to be the hero, but he's got to check the expectation that every play has to be spectacular and understand what success looks like for a young NFL quarterback. And what it looks like is know what the defense is doing, therefore know where to go with the ball and get the ball out of your hand as quickly as possible. Now, again, down and distance and game clock and, score and things like that will affect what you're trying to get done. But overall, the big thing that he'll need to do to be successful is to redefine his perception of success from showing everybody how awesome he is to understand what the play calls for, get the ball out of his hand very quickly, and survive to run the next play and move the chains.
We also got our first look at the Titans' young wide receivers this weekend. They brought in a couple more, but three real impact rookies with Alec Iamaner and Chimere Dike. They took in the 4th round, and then Xavier Restrepo, Cam Ward's top target at Miami. Trevor, does it feel like the Titans really need to get some impact from these three guys this year with not a ton of veteran depth in that wide receiver room heading into training camp?
Yeah, I think they'll need to get impact from two of them. If they get impact from all three, that would be great. But all three of them do different things. I mean, DK is a speed demon. He runs about a 4.35 40, and he can take the top off of defense. And that's important because one of the things that the Titans are doing to help Ward is incorporate some of the things he did well in college to their offense here in Tennessee. And one of those things is the concept of running 4 vertical routes where you've got 4 receivers that will end up splitting the difference across the width of the field and all of them going deep. So if you've only got 3 safeties back there, someone's going to be pretty open. If you've got 2 safeties back there, someone's going to be wide open. And Ward excelled at hitting those 4 vertical concepts. And they'll be doing more of that this year for Ward. And DK is the kind of a guy that as he learns the nuances of how to be a receiver at this level in terms of route running and things like that, he can still just take off down the field. And they need guys that can do that. Iamaner is a different kind of a guy. I mean, he's kind of fast. He's got enough speed, but he's a big physical receiver. He wins the ball because he's more of a beast than most of the guys that have been covering him. And so he's got a big catch radius, and he's different from DK in that way. And then Xavier Restrepo, who's an undrafted free agent, went to Miami, had a magnificent season last year with Cam Ward as his quarterback for the Hurricanes, and ended up the Hurricanes' all-time leading receiver in terms of catches and yards and other records. And considering some of the receivers that they have had and some of the quarterbacks throwing to him over the decades, for Restrepo to be number 1 is magnificent. But physically, he's not impressive on paper. He's not real big. He's not real fast. He excels, though, at running the short routes out of the slot where he can burst out of a break into an open spot. And if the quarterback is good with his timing, he can catch those shorter passes and move the chains. So all 3 of those young receivers are different. If they all 3 are able to perform, great. But my guess is that 2 of the 3 are going to need to be contributors as receivers, not just special teams, in order for there to be enough weapons for Cam Ward to be as effective as he could be in his rookie year.
We'll talk with Trevor Maddich discussing the Tennessee Titans and their team this upcoming season. I'm sure, Trevor, we've talked a lot during the draft. So it's good to talk with you again. Now, looking at this offensive line, Trevor, and we talked about this during the draft once they drafted Cam Ward. This offensive line is sort of a remake in a sense, because you're moving one guy from one position to another, then you're adding, Kevin Zeitler in at right guard, you're putting Dan Moore at left tackle. And then you're hoping that Lloyd Cushenberry comes back and he's ready to go from day one once they get the season started. How do you see, what is your prognosis of this offensive line moving forward? Because I think this is a question mark for me, not because I don't think that I haven't seen these guys play. It's just that they're switching guys now. They took JC and put him at his original position. They're putting Dan Moore in at left tackle and trying to figure out if Cushenberry is going to be back and healthy for the start of the season. So how do you see this offensive line?
Well, D-Mace, it's a great question because it has everything to do with Cam Ward's opportunity to be able to perform well in his rookie season and beyond, really. You look at Will Levis, and for all the criticisms that he's taken and for all the unnecessary mistakes that he made over the last couple of years, he played behind an offensive line that was historic in its ineptness. I mean, they should have a photograph of the last two offensive lines for this team in the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio.
And not for a good thing.
Bad. Oh man, it was just horrific, right? And that I love what they've done this offseason and really the last two off seasons to get this offensive line ready to go. You know, you talked about Lloyd Cushenberry, who they brought in as a free agent from Denver. He's one of the best young centers in the league, and I think it would be a mistake to try to force him back before he's really fully ready. Because if they turn that injury into a chronic problem, they'll diminish him for the rest of his career. And it's really important for his quarterback, Ward, that he be at full strength. Corey Levin right now is listed at the top of the depth chart at center, and I think he's a serviceable backup. I don't think there's a massive gaping hole there if Levin has to fill in for a little bit. But when you look at what they've done over the rest of the last two off seasons, they drafted J.C. Latham, right tackle out of Alabama last year, put him at left tackle, and he did some good things and he struggled in some ways. But in bringing in two free agents this offseason, the Titans dramatically improved three positions because by putting Dan Moore, who's a steady starter, not a superstar, but a steady starter from Pittsburgh, put him at left tackle, that allowed them to move J.C. Latham to right tackle. And that made both positions, in my opinion, solid to outstanding. Because I think Latham, once he gets reacquainted with the right tackle position, is going to be a devastating run blocker and a very good pass blocker. I mean, I think Latham is going to be a real difference maker at right tackle. And then bringing in Kevin Zeitler as a veteran at right guard, I think is a very important move for them. But look at what this means for Peter Skoronski. You know, when Lloyd Cushenberry comes back at center, Skoronski, for the first time in his career here at Tennessee, will have a veteran on either side of him at center and at left tackle. For the first couple of years Skoronski's been here, he's had some combination of a 270-pound center and a parade of left tackles that couldn't play at all. And so not only could they not help Skoronski develop at left guard, Skoronski had to help them. And he ended up making some mistakes because he gave too much help to one side or the other, and his guy caused problems. So all these different things added up to the offensive line for this team, especially 2 years ago, was heinous. If they would just improve from heinous to decent, it would be an enormous boon for this team. Well, assuming everybody gets healthy and stays healthy, they will have improved in 2 years on the offensive line from heinous to potentially very good. And I'm looking forward to see if they're able to make that happen, because on paper, assuming they're healthy, you go right across the starting five offensive linemen. And if I'm Cam Ward, I look at that and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have something that Will Levis did not have. And that is the opportunity to actually do my job as a quarterback in the pocket.
We're talking with Trevor Maddich, brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters, we'll take a quick break. Have more with Trevor after this. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason in for Jared Stillman. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Test, check 1 2 1 2. Try it in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon. I'm David Reed. This Game Center update is brought to you by Holiday World and Splash and Safari, celebrating 25 years of free unlimited soft drinks just a short drive from Nashville. It's the place for family memories and a summer you won't forget. Get your tickets at holidayworld.com. Big news today. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred announced that Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased players are immediately removed from baseball's banned list. Adding MLB's punishment of banned players ends at their death. The move paves the way for Cooperstown for MLB's hit king. Under current rules, Rose could be eligible for enshrinement as early as 2028. Things have gone from bad to worse for the Celtics. Not only are the Knicks on the verge of bouncing Boston from the playoffs, but Jason Tatum underwent surgery for a torn Achilles he suffered in Monday night's 121-103 loss in New York. Timberwolves also one win away from moving to the conference finals after downing the Warriors 117-110. The Pacers can punch their ticket tonight to the Eastern Conference Final with a win over the Cavs. That's a 6:30 tip in Cleveland. And the Thunder and Nuggets tied at 2 games each. They battle tonight. That's an 8:30 tip in OKC.
Jake Lyman, Derek Mason, in for Jared Stillman today. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3. The Game, wrapping up hour number 2. And we continue our conversation with Trevor Maddich, brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Trevor, we talked about Cam Ward in the last segment. Will Levis also still in the Titans quarterback room. Derek Carr retiring from the New Orleans Saints over the weekend. Do we think maybe that could be a fit for the Titans to move Will Levis? And if not, maybe where else could Will Levis go if the Titans elect to move on from the third-year quarterback?
Well, the Steelers need a quarterback. Everybody needs a good backup quarterback. And the thing about Will Levis is that he was a high second-round pick a couple of years ago. Came into a situation where he not only had no protection, he also had, from an offensive line that just really struggled, he also didn't have much of a receiving core. I mean, he had a couple of guys rotate in and out that were pretty good players, but didn't have an array of weapons that would force the defense to actually spread out and have mismatches happen. So they'd be able to, D-Hop, they'd be able to, double cover him if they need to and not worry about anybody else burning single coverage somewhere else, especially in the time that Levis had to throw. So I kind of tend to think that Levis is going to have a better career than a lot of people think right now. And truthfully, if I'm Levis, I am livid that I got thrown into the fire the way that I did, and then I got blamed for the problems. And a lot of the mistakes that he made that were unnecessary mistakes, where he just made an incredibly poor decision, I think he was trying to do too much to try to score points and win games, knowing that there was not much around him on that offense. And that's a mistake on his part. He shouldn't have done that, but I think he's going to be more respected as a potential, at least solid backup, if not a potential starter as time goes on. And sure, I mean, he would add competition to that Saints quarterback room, and I think, and some experience as well. I think that would be a good thing, but I wouldn't be too quick if I'm the Titans to want to really get rid of him, because, Brandon Allen, who they brought in from Cincinnati to back up and kind of mentor Cam Ward, if he has to play, the Titans season isn't going to really go very far. I mean, it's very possible that if Will Levis has to go in for Cam Ward for whatever reason, that playing behind a good offensive line for the first time in his career and having a deeper array of receivers to throw to than he's ever had in his NFL career, that Will Levis might just show that he's a much better quarterback than people give him credit for. Now, he's not going to beat out Cam Ward, not for the long term, certainly. But from a backup standpoint, Will Levis may end up being the most talented and dynamic option for this team.
Yeah, if you look at it, he has all the attributes or the measurables, I should say, but he hadn't been able to, for whatever reason, he just hadn't been able to put it together. And it's going to be a competition, but like you said, it's not a competition between Will Levis and Cam Ward. It's a competition between Will Levis, Brandon Allen, and who else is the
Tim Boyle.
Tim
Yeah.
Boyle. It's a competition between those three, because listen, you drafted Cam number one. He's going to play first game of the season, and you're just hoping that they have him up to speed. And it seems like they have a plan for him to get him up to speed and ready to go. But we've talked a lot about the offense. But what I've understood, and you know this just as well, Trevor, that another way you can help a young quarterback is that you get him a defense that isn't giving up 27 points per game. Now, this defense from the outside looked pretty good. They were number 2 in the NFL. But when you start to really look at the numbers, we know why they probably were number 2, but they sure enough gave up a bunch of points. So how imperative is it going to be that the Titans get their defense right as they develop their young quarterback?
Well, that's important too, so that Ward doesn't feel pressure in the second half to have to win games, right? And that's how you help the young quarterback. You keep the score down so that you can continue to hand the ball off or run play action and not put a lot of pressure on them. Although I think if there's a choice that the Titans have while they're developing their roster to give maximum emphasis to helping Ward on offense or helping Ward by giving him a good defense, I think you start with the offense, because if the Titans lose games because the offense can't move the ball and can't score, that will affect Ward's confidence and that will affect him. If they lose games because the offense is scoring points but the defense is giving up more, well, then Ward is in a position to where, hey, we're doing well over here, let's keep it going. And I think that's a better scenario if you have to pick one side or the other. Having said that, the defense last year, D-Mace, you're exactly right. I mean, they looked great when it came to statistics in terms of yards allowed, but they gave up a ton of points. And part of that reason was that the offense, and Will Levis was a big part of this, with really bad decisions, giving up turnovers. The offense kept giving the ball to opposing offenses for short fields. And so maybe the Titans defense only gave up 37 yards on this drive, but it was a touchdown because they got the ball on the 30-yard line, right? And maybe if the opposing offense got the ball on the minus 20 and they had 80 yards to go, who's to say they wouldn't have scored, an 80-yard touchdown? And so, the stats from last year are really skewed for this defense, but they have the potential to be a lot better. But I think that in order to be better, the real key is going to be the cover guys. I mean, the corners and safeties, especially the corners, are going to have to cover, because right now it's a bit of a mystery where the pass rush is going to come from organically up front. And Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator, loves to be aggressive. He loves to dictate to the offense. What that means is you've got safeties and corners and others that very often are up near the line. They're blitzing, they're firing, they're stacking the line, then they're backing out. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So the offense doesn't know what's going on, but they do know that there's going to be pressure on everything that they do. But if you don't have corners that you can rely on to cover man to man often, while other members of the secondary are up front trying to cause havoc for the offense, then you'll end up with a defense that's sure getting pressure up front, but giving up big plays on the back end. So to me, the biggest key until they can identify some organic pass rushers up front will be how deep and how effective will their cover corners go.
Yeah, Jake and I talked about that earlier. Trevor, we're talking with Trevor Mattis discussing the Tennessee Titans, and looking at this team where they didn't get many turnovers, let alone interceptions. They got to find a way to generate those this upcoming season, because, like you said, Denard Wilson loves to be aggressive, and he can't be aggressive if you're not getting. If there's no reward from being being aggressive, meaning reward for them is turnovers, fumbles, interceptions, batted ball, stuff like that. And they just hadn't been able to get that at this, they didn't get it last year, and hopefully they can get it this season. Now, what would be your expectations for this team? Because I'm sure the expectation, with in the front office may be a little bit different. I'm sure it ain't all built on wins or losses. So what are your expectations with this team, seeming that essentially it seems like Brian Callahan may be in a situation where his job is in jeopardy if this team doesn't improve?
Yeah, I think they will be clearly better.
Mm-hmm.
Will they be good enough to compete in the ACC to go deep into the playoffs? Not yet. There are too many holes in the roster. And they're going against, for example, just one example, established quarterbacks in Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City,
Mm-hmm.
San Diego, Houston, all kinds of places now where you've got quarterbacks that are in their prime playing at a very high level that are competing for MVP. I mean, that's how good they're playing, while the Titans are starting with the rookie quarterback, trying to get him up to speed. So they're behind in a lot of different positions. But I expect them to look more like a football team that doesn't make massive mistakes. It's okay if you're not good enough, but I want you to get beat while being in the right place, doing the right thing with the proper technique.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to see. You look at the defense at DMC, that's a great point that you make, about, the importance of them improving. Part of the problem last year was tackle. Guys would be in position to make a tackle, but they'd use poor technique and they'd miss the tackle, or they take a poor angle and not be in position to attempt the tackle, or they bust an assignment and they wouldn't even know where to stand, for goodness sake. And therefore there's nobody there at all to try to make a tackle. And so I want to see defenders in the right place, using the right technique. And then if they miss a tackle, it's because it's Saquon Barkley or somebody who's also very good, made a great play against them, right? And there were too many mistakes on both sides of the ball that were just inexplicable, ridiculous high school level mistakes. And I want to see this team look like a team that you have to defeat, not a team that beats itself.
Always fantastic stuff from Trevor Matich. Trevor, thanks so much for taking some time. Hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, D-Man.
All right, Trev.
Trevor Matich joining us for his weekly visit, brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Always one of the best guests on this station. If you want a guy who's going to go in depth on everything, Trevor Matich is your guy.
Absolutely.
Great answers there. We'll react to it next, and also talk a little bit more about the Titans' schedule, as we will find out the dates, the times, primetime games, where they're playing. We know where they're playing, but all that tomorrow night. We'll dive into it in our final hour coming up next. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason, in for Jared Stillman today. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, the game final hour on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason in for Jared Stillman today. Jared on vacation until Friday when he returns. We are brought to you by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, your bank for small business. And as always, we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Great conversation with Trevor Maddich, wrapping up the last hour. We're going to spend most of the final hour of the show looking at the Titans' possible schedule. The NFL schedule will be released tomorrow, and I'm sure the Titans' social media team is gearing up for another viral reveal video. I'm wondering if we get a third straight year of the Broadway Man on the Street video trying to recreate the lightning in the bottle they had 2 years ago.
I mean, gosh, you think they're going to go to the well again?
They did it last year too.
Listen,
if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Sometimes you just got to change it, man. Just change it. Like, okay, you've had success with it twice. Put it away. And then bring it out.
Right. Maybe like 5 years down the road, bring it
out
back.
When you open that new stadium, bring it back out.
I like that.
But be creative. This is the department. What is the social media department? Be creative like I know you all are. You know?
I think Ian
Don't go back to the well again.
Right. Everybody can just reuse the same idea
exactly.
over and over.
It was a good idea.
They have done multiple the last couple of years. So like the year that they went viral for that video, they also did the big Robert's Western World video. They had all the celebrities in Robert's Western World downtown, and like slowly throughout the video, you could see the opponents popping up on like the walls and stuff like that.
Okay.
So they did have multiple. We'll see what the Titans' plan is. I believe I saw Ian Rappaport said the Arizona Cardinals have one to look out for, a schedule reveal video that could go viral. So we'll see what the Titans do with that. 7 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, we will find out when the Titans will play their 17 games. We'll find out bye week, primetime games. We'll talk about all of that. But looking at the teams the Titans are going to play, the Titans are playing a last place schedule for the second straight year, I believe, right? They had the last place schedule last year. But last year, it didn't seem to help them that much because they had to play. Who did they have to play that finished last place and shouldn't have? The Dolphins,
Washington.
I think. Yeah, Washington.
Yeah,
that's
division,
a good one.
Yeah.
Everyone thought Washington was going to be bad, and they end up going to the NFC Championship game, and they were up 28-0 on the Titans before you could blink. But the three opponents, so the last place schedule only impacts three opponents. Your other 14 are set based on division. So the Titans will play their 6 divisional games against the Texans, Jaguars, and Colts at home and away. They will play the AFC and NFC West divisions this year. So they're going to play, let me look. They will play the Broncos and Raiders on the road, the Chiefs and Chargers at home. They'll play the Rams and Seahawks at home, and the 49ers and Cardinals on the road. The only 3 games that are changed by the fourth place schedule, they'll play the Patriots, the Saints, and the Browns.
Okay, so tell me, where is this schedule easy at?
The opponents. Just look up 2020.
No, I'm just saying, like,
right.
Because you finished last, you're supposed to have the easier schedule.
Right.
But then you look at like the divisions that they play, the NFC West and the AFC West. I mean, San Francisco, I think they're going to be a better team than they were last year. I still think their window is closed. I do believe their window is closed.
I agree.
For Super Bowl, I think their window is closed, but I think they will always be.
But still a
good
competitive team.
Exactly. I think the Rams are going to be a competitive team. Seattle, Arizona. I think that the AFC West is going to be a lot more competitive. You got the Rams who went to the playoffs last season, so I'm sure they are probably geared up to be the favorites at that division, either them or Seattle. And then you go to the AFC West. It's like, where do you get any reprieve? I mean, you don't. I mean, Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers. Now, the Raiders, you may say, the Vegas Raiders, but that was basing it on last year. This is a different team.
They got Geno Smith in there.
Exactly. But you don't know. You know Denver's going to be pretty good.
Yep.
You know Kansas City's going to be pretty good. And you know the Chargers are going to be good. So where is this, like, playing this easy schedule? I know it's not you saying it, but we all
Right.
assume because you finished last, you're gonna have an easier schedule.
That's why the fourth place schedule, everybody says, oh, they have the last place schedule. It's so
Mhm.
much easier. But that only impacts 3 games.
Exactly.
Like, if you're playing I think the AFC and the NFC West, you could make an argument. Those are the 2 toughest divisions you could play.
Mhm.
I think maybe the NFC North would be they'd be in
NFC
that
North,
conversation.
NFC East.
The AFC North would be tough too, obviously, because the Steelers are always good, and the Bengals and Ravens have 2 of the top quarterbacks in the league. But you're right. You look at this, and the Saints, we've all kind of agreed the Saints aren't going to be very good
No.
with their quarterback situation.
Mhm.
I think the Browns aren't going to be very good this year. Then,
But the Browns are always you got to. They went to the playoffs 2 years ago,
yes,
and now they're not too far
and
removed from a
they
playoff.
still have Myles Garrett.
appearance. Yes, still have Myles
And-
Garrett, and they beefed up their defense even more.
Right.
So we'll see. It's not it's not as easy as one may think it is with Cleveland and them being such a cluster the last couple of years.
No, and if you're basing this solely off quarterbacks,
Yes.
I mean, some of the quarterbacks the Titans have to play. You got to play Mahomes. You've got to play Herbert, Stafford. Sam Darnold's with the Seahawks now. Drake May's up and coming. You play CJ Stroud twice, Bo Nix, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy. So this is not an easy schedule for a fourth place schedule. The Titans are going to have their hands full. I think there are some gettable games on here for sure. You're only playing 2 playoff teams on the road, one of which being Houston, who you're going to play on the road and at home. You play 4 playoff teams at home, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Rams, and the Texans. So only playing 6 games against playoff teams, but some of these non-playoff teams are expecting to be a lot better than they were last year. New England, I think, is an example of that in Drake May's second year. And you mentioned San Francisco, a team that dealt with a ton of injuries last year, probably not in the Super Bowl contender area, but I think they could easily win that division.
Yeah, and they're going to be battling for a playoff spot. I do believe that.
So this is a tough schedule, and the Titans will find out what order it comes in.
There are no easy games in the NFL. I'll repeat that. There are no easy games in the NFL. Now, as the week goes on, because of injury, you may get a team on the right Sunday or Monday or Thursday because of injury, but there is no easy games. Even the Tennessee Titans made games difficult last year. They were a bad team, for opponents, So there's no just, okay, we got an easy schedule. We should, win 8 or 9 games because of the schedule that we had. No, every game is going to be a tough game. It just depends on when you catch that team. Are they injured or are they not injured? Did they come off of a Thursday night game or a Monday night game and got to play Thursday? I mean, a Sunday night game, but then got to play Thursday. So that's where it becomes. That's where I think the scale sort of tips a little bit. Is when you play a team, not necessarily, oh, that's the easy team. That's the easy win for us. No, there's no easy wins in the NFL.
Yeah, I think in college football, you can chalk up wins a little bit. Like every year, Alabama plays Mercer. And I think Alabama could just roll out of bed, not practice all week, and show up to the stadium. They might not beat Mercer by 60, but they would beat Mercer. No preparation, roll out of bed, show up to the field and play them. Alabama beats Mercer. There's not a game in the NFL where you can just roll out of bed if you're the Chiefs and say, hey, we can beat the Saints today.
Ask the Bengals, first game of the season last season.
Yeah.
Against the Patriots. Patriots wasn't a good team, but the Bengals lost, right? Yeah. Okay. So there's no easy. The Titans, was it last year or the year before? Year before that, Carolina Panthers came in here. Carolina was a bad team.
Yeah.
What happened?
The Titans on the road against the Dolphins 2 years ago.
Yeah. So it depends on when you catch a team, when you play that team. Are they injured? When their key players out? Is it at the end of the season, toward the end of the season? When are you facing these teams? It's not necessarily that it's going to be an easy out, because the Cincinnati Bengals, everybody probably thought, man, that's an easy win. They should beat the Patriots. They're starting a rookie quarterback, or they're starting, I think,
it was Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett. Oh, they're starting a journeyman. They end up losing a game.
Yep. Any given Sunday. That's why they say it. 615-737-1025. You have thoughts on the Titans schedule. We'll continue to dive in as the NFL schedule will be released tomorrow evening, and we'll find out all the dates and all the start times. Lots of noon starts likely for the Titans, as always. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason filling in for Jared Stillman here on Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Coach, real quick, schedule comes out next week.
Yeah.
Are you excited to see, obviously you know who you're playing, where you're playing them, but are you excited to see like the dates and, you know,
Yeah.
can we get a Monday night game, stuff like that?
It always makes it more real. when you have some dates to put to it and you have an order. And usually, you get to I look at like the first 3 teams, and after that, I couldn't even tell you who we play. You sort of focus on the start and you take it as it comes. But it's always good to know when and where you're playing teams, when your games are, what your travel schedule looks like. It just makes it more real, makes it, you're just one step closer to that actually occurring. But yeah, I'm always excited about the schedule release, and you like to see who you open up with and see what your first month looks like and what teams you play and where. So that's always an exciting time.
Brian Callahan over the weekend talking about the NFL schedule release. Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock Central Time, we will find out all 200 and I'm trying to do quick math in my head. Is it 272 games? We've already found out a few. The Eagles have pretty much their entire schedule out there at this point as they've slowly trickled out. I think they've already got 5 or 6 games that have been released. The Titans still waiting to hear their first. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason with you, filling in for Jared Stillman today on Stillman and Company. Looking at the Titans schedule, and we just went through it. The opponents at the very least. The 4th place schedule, it helps them out a little bit. The Saints, Patriots, and Browns are the 3 4th place teams that they get. And it's better than having to face, I guess the counterparts would be the Bills, the Buccaneers, and the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather face those 3 teams. But still not an easy schedule. D-Mace, what do you think? What is the ceiling for this team with this schedule? I don't like going game by game and having to pick through, but with a lot of tough games on this schedule, they won 3 games last year. Do you think they could double that, get to 6, maybe higher this year if things start to come together?
I truly believe, and this is because I believed this last year, but then they started running into injury after injury at key spots. And the offensive line just never worked itself into any type of rotation. Work itself into any type of, those guys developing together. It just didn't happen. It kept happening. One injury after another. Cushenberry goes down. Guys not playing well. So it's just a constant shuffling of the offensive line. And that was a question mark at the beginning of the season anyway. But I looked at that team at the beginning of the season. And I said, they got Jeffrey Simmons at D-line. I thought Tavondre Sweat was going to be a good player. He turned out to be a good player. I said that L'Jarius Sneed and Cheeto at corner. One corner, many consider a top 3 corner. The other corner was a solid guy. And then the back end was good with the safeties. I thought this team, if they stayed healthy, they could push for a playoff spot. They could push possibly even Houston, because I said Houston would take a step. I thought Houston still would win the conference or the division, but I thought that Houston would take a step back in the AFC South. They did take a step back, but the Titans took like 10 steps back too.
Yes.
So it didn't matter. But I thought if this team stayed healthy, they had an opportunity to go on a run and win some games and put themselves in a position at the end of the season when they start playing AFC South games, they would be right where they wanted to be, fighting for a playoff spot. But it didn't happen. Why? A lot of injuries happened. The offensive line really was nowhere near what we thought they were going to be. So fast forward this year, I do believe, and I could be wrong again, and it could happen to me all over again. I do believe if they don't have major injuries, I'm not talking about a guy getting hurt, guy missing some plays or may miss one game.
Right. But like,
I'm talking
out
about,
for the season.
Yeah, I'm talking about guys out for multiple games. If they avoid that, I think this offensive coaching staff is smart enough to understand that, listen, we're going to take this thing slow with the quarterback, and we're going to run the football, and we're going to put him in positions where he can succeed. If we can have guys out here every week that he can depend on and to get used to, that's good for him. Where it gets bad is when guys get injured. He's not getting you. He got to get used to a guy, then he's gone. Then he got to get used to another guy, then he's gone due to injury. If he has consistency, that's why they brought in Tyler Lockett and some of these other guys that have been available to play. You rely on those guys, and they've been proven to play more times than not. If they get that, with the way they putting together this team, they are going to be a much better team than they were last season.
Yep.
How many games they win? 3?
3.
I think they double it. They win 6 or 7 games. I know 7 isn't doubling it. That's a little bit more, but doubling it and one more. Okay. I think they are a 7 and 11?
7-10.
7 and 10. They are a 7 and 10 ball club, I believe, if they stay healthy. Now, some things may end up working out their way in other games that, again, it's all about when do you play a team? So if they can stay healthy, I think they are a 7-game win team. If they don't, then I think they could be back in the same place they were last year. If this team stay healthy, there's no way they're picking number 1 again. No way.
I agree. I don't think this is a roster that is top 3 pick material.
No.
I think, and a lot of it has to do with Cam Ward.
Yes.
I think I'm with you. Last year, I was kind of in the this could be a playoff team if Will Levis does take the step that everyone thought he was going to. I thought it could be a playoff team this year. I think 7 and 10 with Cam Ward playing well down the stretch of the season is a success for this team.
Yeah, let's hope it is, because I try not to look at necessarily the record, but you said the most important thing. If Cam Ward is playing well,
yeah,
that's all I want. I want Cam Ward to develop and him to play well, like you can see to develop game in and game out.
Right.
That's what I want to see. And sometimes that may not end up being, it may not end up showing up in the record. It may end up showing up other places. But hopefully, as he develops and gets better, it does show up in the record. And they stay healthy, it does show up in the record. Because I guarantee you, if they stay healthy and he develops the way they believe he will develop, I don't want to say they will be this year's version of the Commanders or last 2 years version of the Houston Texans, but I think they would have a good shot of being a team that can go from worse to a playoff spot.
It's not impossible. And like I said in the first hour, there's not a football fan out there in America who doesn't think there's an outside shot that their team makes the playoffs. Like every single fan is like, well, if this goes right and if he stays healthy, we could sneak in, go 9-8. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Titans, they've come in with a little more measured expectations this year. And I think 6-11, 7-10, 8-9, somewhere in that range. But it looks like it's starting to click for Cam Ward in December. And maybe he has a big win down the stretch against a team that the Titans aren't supposed to beat. And it's starting to look like the game's slowing down for him a little bit. That's a success. And I think you can head into the offseason re-energized about this team if Cam Ward is looking like he's the guy and you end up with at least double the amount of wins you had last year. If you're picking between 10th and 15th and Cam Ward looks good,
ideal.
I think that is a good start for this rebuild. And then you can look at 2026 as maybe a year where you can get back into the hunt. And it's like, all right, maybe we're fighting for a playoff spot down the stretch. Like 2016. That was Marcus Mariota's second year. They went 9-7, just missed out on a playoff spot. I think that's what 2026 is going to be for the Titans. And then you hope by 2027, when you're moving into the new stadium,
They're ready to go,
that you're a team that can go win the AFC South.
Yeah, I think they are trying to position themselves where, you would love for it to be immediate. But realistically, it's not going to happen. You don't, when for every Houston Texans or Washington Commanders, there's a team that still ends up being at the bottom. They may not be last, but they still end up missing the playoffs and not having a winning record. So for every Houston and Commander team, you have those teams. The Titans got to find a way to be able to get the most out of the surrounding cast that the quarterback has. And I'm talking about on offense. We've described and said what they need to do on defense. I think if they do the job they're capable of doing. And again, I'm looking at last year, and I know last year it's kind of weird because they had a lot of short fields. But if they can, let's just say, if everything was ideal, if they could still be the number 2 team in the National Football League when it comes to defense, and they cut that 27.1 to about, let's just say they cut it to 18 points. This is a much better team.
Yep. And a lot of that starts with don't turn the ball
Yeah,
over as
don't
much.
turn it over.
34 turnovers last
And
year
get
for the Titans.
turnovers.
Yes, and get a few more.
Exactly. So
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 4405 on our text line says, if Sam Darnold outplays Cam in that Seahawks game, Jared is going to have a field day. Yeah, that would be a Monday show.
yeah,
for sure.
but you I mean you're talking about a 6-year veteran,
Right.
7-year veteran, whatever Sam Darnold is, and a rookie quarterback.
It'd be hilarious if they made that week 1 and Cam Ward's first game is Sam Darnold
just
coming
don't throw
in.
4 touchdowns. Throw 3 and run another one in.
Darnold just lights it up and Cam Ward throws 3 picks. Jared would come in here. I told you so.
Yeah, but again, it's like, yeah, come on. Are you really having this conversation with a rookie quarterback and a veteran guy?
Make his first start.
Making his first start. Yeah. But a lot of it does hinge on, how well they develop Cam Ward as the season moves. If you don't see that development, then hell, the whole coaching staff is going to be gone. It's going to be a new coaching staff.
I think
they need to see that.
This year is a lot more about Cam Ward's development than it is about the actual wins and losses. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to chime in. We'll continue talking schedule. How many primetime games will the Titans get? I heard Chase and Big Joe saying they set the total at 1.5. I tend to go over. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason, filling in for Jared Stillman. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Jake Lyman, Derek Mason, and for Jared Stillman today. Jared on vacation through Thursday. So tomorrow in this time slot, it'll be Joe Rexroad, Paul Kaharski. And then on Thursday, I'll be back here with Adam Vingen. And Derek going back to his close to his usual time slot. He'll get back in his routine 12 to 3 tomorrow and Thursday with Willie Donick.
Absolutely. So listen up.
Yep. Listen back in. And Chase and Big Joe will be back.
Missing the V in
DVD. Missing. Yeah. Adam's getting like all 6 to 6 this week. He's doing 6 to 9 a.m. tomorrow with Robbie, and then 3 to 6 p.m. with me on Thursday. So Adam Vingen all over the place.
We have positionless.
Positionless radio here.
Radio here.
Everybody can move around. And then back to the normal schedule on Friday when Jared returns. We're talking Titans schedule here, as it will be released on Wednesday night, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Big question, I think, every year when the schedule released, because you know who they're playing. The dates and time, the dates don't really matter as much. You look for the bye week and primetime games. How many primetime games do we think the Titans are going to get? Last year, I just looked, Caleb Williams and the Bears as the number 1 pick. They got 3 primetime games and a London game. So that was 4 standalone games for Caleb Williams and the Bears last year. Titans will not be playing overseas. I heard Chase and Big Joe saying over 1.5. I would think it's almost guaranteed that they're going to get 2. I think the question is, would they get 3?
Well, listen, you can't base it on Chicago Bears last year, because I think the hype train for Caleb Williams
is a good point.
Off and running before
more than Cam Ward.
It was even before the season had started. It was like, everybody was clamoring over Caleb Williams, and you're talking about a guy that had just coming off winning the Heisman Trophy. So obviously, all eyes were on him. So, but the hype train isn't that way with Cam Ward, and I'm cool with it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Let the young man just do what he do and win football games, hopefully. So last year you're looking at Caleb. Yeah, you understand Caleb Williams having 4 games, first pick in the draft. So that's what comes with it. This year with the Titans, I'm not sure if they will get the Caleb Williams / Chicago Bear treatment with 4 primetime games. Maybe I'm thinking that I think they will get at least 2.
That's what I think. It's 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think they will get at least 2. And I'm looking at, depending on how, because they can be flexed. I think they can be flexed into one of these prime times. And a lot of that is going to be dependent on the latter part of the season.
Right. What does Cam Ward do throughout the year?
Exactly. And then where is the Titans position playoff wise in the AFC South? Are they competing with C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans? Are they competing with Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville, for that final or one of the final playoff spots? So I think a lot of it depends on that, because if that happens, then they could get flexed into a primetime game. But without saying all of that, without all of that happening, man, 2, maybe 3. They may get 3, and that 3 is pushing. That's before the flex.
I think the Titans are going to get their usual primetime games that they always get.
They played early Monday night.
They'll get the Monday night in a doubleheader where you can flip back and forth. That one, maybe that's like the Rams or the 49ers.
It'll be a West Coast team, because
could be the Raiders
playing the first game, I'm sure.
Something like that. And then they get a Thursday night game, right? That could be a divisional game.
Well, that'd be the later game. They play the West Coast game, depending on where they play them.
I think there's a chance that the Titans could get a Sunday night game, and just because they have the number 1 pick, and if it happens, it would be one of 2 teams.
Do they get it early or do they get it sort of late?
I think it might be early against the Patriots. Here's my bold prediction: is within the first month of the season, one of the Sunday night games is Titans Patriots.
Oh, man, within the first month?
I understand that they usually go with big teams and the better teams early in the season, but there's so many storylines in that game. Vrabel returning to Tennessee. You've got 2 young quarterbacks just picked high in their draft. I understand that it's not Chiefs Ravens or Eagles and Lions or something like that. There's a bold prediction. I think that they're going to look at that and say there's too many storylines to stash this game at noon. And I don't know if it fits as a Monday night or a Thursday night game.
It all depends on when they play them. I think a lot of that depends on, because you're right. If they play them early, and what you're talking about, like within the first 4 weeks, there may be an opportunity, because you figure, you would hope that in the first 4 months, the first 4 weeks, the Titans end up being 2-2 at worst,
Right.
2-2, or heading into that fourth game with New England, and they're 1-2 or 2-1.
Yeah.
And New England is sort of the same thing. So that would make for a sort of a tantalizing meeting of the two teams that are up and coming, sort of.
Here's my only reason I say that, and I mentioned the storylines. Week 2 last year, and I don't want to compare completely Caleb Williams to Cam Ward. It is different. Caleb Williams was supposed to be he was the number 1 pick from the second the Bears knew they had the pick.
Exactly.
Week 2 last year was Caleb Williams and the Bears against the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud on Sunday Night Football. So the Bears, even though they weren't expected to be a super competitive team, you put 2 young quarterbacks against each other, and there were some storylines. I think it could happen. I'm just that bold prediction, putting it out there.
Well, they gotta. Listen, if they can bring in, if people, those that are making the schedule, if they believe, because one, I think they have to believe in Drake May as a quarterback,
right?
And he showed a lot of good things last year. And that was just a bad team. Now, if they feel this team showing improvement, I can see them, them and the Titans playing that fourth game on prime time on a Sunday night. But man, it's just hard for me to sort of put the Titans in that position against. I know they have all the storylines, but you're talking about two teams that end up being the top 5, having the top 5 pick, both of them.
But if it makes good TV,
I guess so.
That's all that matters,
man.
615-737-1025. Last call for phones. If you want to reach out, we'll get to them coming up next and wrap up the show. Jake Lyman and Derek Mason in for Jared today. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Finishing up the show on this Tuesday, Jake Lyman, Derek Mason in for Jared, Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Again, Jared back on Friday on vacation this week. Tomorrow, it is back to a closer to regular schedule. It'll be Robbie and Adam from 6 to 9, Chase and Big Joe from 9 to noon. Then from noon to 3, D-Mace back with Willie Donick. And then Joe Rexroad, Paul Kaharski. Coming on for a 3-hour show.
Ooh, I'm gonna listen to that one.
Yeah, that'll be one to tune in for sure. And then on Thursday, same schedule, except for Joe goes back to the mornings, and I'll be on from 3 to 6 with Adam Vingan. Wrapping up the show, talking Titans schedule. We are just over 24 hours away from finding out all of the Titans matchups, when and where. How many primetime games, I think, is always the biggest question when you're looking at the NFL schedule release. Robert in Nashville on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com says none, unless you count an early start on one of those triple header dates. And I know there are a lot of extra quote unquote primetime standalone games when you talk about Thanksgiving, and now there's all the Christmas games, and then they add the Saturday games late in the season once the college football season is over. So who knows? Maybe it's not going to be traditional Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night games for the Titans. Maybe they get into a Saturday game or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those deals where I think because of the league has the ability to flex, it's you earn your right to be on prime time as the season goes on. I think the Titans, they will probably get one or two, but I think they can earn more depending on how they look, especially in the one or two they may have.
Yeah.
If they look good, they look competitive, even if they win one or both that they may have, then I think the league would be looking to move them to possibly a third or fourth game, or a second or third, because they may only have one. But I think they have an opportunity. If they only get one, or if they get none, they have an opportunity to earn at least one or two as the season goes on, depending on how they're doing, during the season.
I will say on the new flexing rules, the ability for the NFL to flex Thursday night games to Sunday and vice versa is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like when this schedule comes out tomorrow, you're going to have people booking hotel rooms, booking flights to go to these games. And a 2 weeks notice is not nearly enough to say, oh, by the way, this game's not on a Thursday anymore. It's on a Sunday. Or by the way, this game's not on a Sunday. It's going to be in the middle of your work week on a Thursday. I think it is absolutely insane that the NFL is going to flex Thursday games to Sunday.
Well, that's why, I mean, listen, you still get people to show up, whether they are traveling or they're in town.
It's true.
You're going to get people to show up to the NFL game if your team is doing well. Now, if your team's not doing well, one, you're not going to get flexed. But if your team's not doing well, then you're not going to get the people to come. So I hope that, the Titans are at a point next year, this upcoming season, where they are improving and, people are excited and eager to go to Nissan Stadium. And then that may equal to them having, or equate to them having more primetime games.
No, and I do get it, because for the NFL, at least, just because they're not worried about attendance as the NFL, because for the most part, you don't really see empty NFL stadiums. People show up to those games. They're worried about the TV money. And if late in the season they have a Bears and Saints game on a Thursday night that both those teams are 1-7, they're going to flex that out. And they're not really worried about the people from California who flew to Chicago to go see the Bears. So
they're going to give you enough time to flex you out of it so you can rework.
Yeah, they'll give you 2 weeks to say, all right, well, we thought we were going in for the weekend, but I guess we have to be there on Thursday now for this game.
Hey, if you want to watch that game, you're going to be there on Thursday.
That is true. That is true. It's not the NFL's problem, right?
Nah, the NFL, listen, that's a you problem, not the NFL's problem. The NFL money is already in the bank. The money you giving to us to come sit in these stadiums, that's just icing on the cake. That's all.
Right. Somebody's going to buy those tickets.
Yeah, somebody's going to buy them.
That'll do it for us today. D-Mace, it's been fun the last 2 days.
Yes, I've enjoyed it. I've complained just a tad
Getting out of
bit
your routine.
because I'm out of my routine, and then the traffic coming in, so I complain. But no, I enjoyed, being on the show with you, being on the show with Reed. So it's been great the last 2 days.
It's been a blast. Enjoy getting back to your regular schedule. Reed, good luck tomorrow with Joe and Paul. I will talk to you on Thursday.
Hey, people, enjoy the rest of your day. Be blessed. Love the people around you. Take care of yourself. Peace.